Okay, sorry. I had to put our new stream key into the streaming software because we got a new channel, boys. It's RLD Fantasy Time. And, oh, messed it up right away. And looking at the YouTube channel, you guys have christened it in exactly the way I would have hoped and dreamed that you would. Beautiful. Oh, it says I'm already live. I have an echo. I know I have a delay, but do I have an echo? Oh, okay. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. All right, so welcome, both of you, to... did I do something weird with the stream? I don't think I did anything weird with the stream. Board says he has an echo and Ben don't. Curious. I did mess with the settings board, so you might have got trapped in a previous instance, and then, yeah. So, sorry. All right, well, anyway, on to the main event, starting seamlessly, exactly as I expected and planned. So, this is RLD Fantasy. This is going to be, hopefully, something kind of unique in the fantasy football advice / community landscape. Something in between. Something that's part community, part... Oh, Boards figured it out. Round of applause for Boards, everybody. Figured out computing. Part fantasy community. That's the kind of razzing you can expect to get on RLD Fantasy. Part community, part fantasy call-in radio show platform, and then also underpinning all of that is hopefully some pretty good fantasy advice driven by experience, driven by guys who've played, who know the basics, but also have 5, 10, 15 years of experience playing fantasy football and know the pitfalls to watch out for. We don't just know that you want to avoid putting your Thursday night football play into your flex spots. We've gone to fantasy deep into fantasy playoffs before, fantasy championships against each other a lot of the time. So we hopefully know a thing or two. Oh, hiding behind my stream window. Hiding behind my stream window because I'm going to be broadcasting the ADP there, or displaying the ADP there, that I'm going to be dissecting, Ben, in the YouTube chat. Sorry that you couldn't see 100% of my face just now. I know you want to keep eyes on me at all times. Anyway, so RLD Fantasy. Hopefully you like us and you come back and check us out. I'm never going to ask for you to smash that like button. That's just too idiotic. But hopefully you enjoy the content. You hear something at least a little bit novel that not everybody else in the fantasy industry is regurgitating morning, noon, and night. And we are going to try to give you a variety of people. Yes, I'm going to be involved heavily because I control the YouTube account. But we've got Ben. A lot of you guys will know. We've got Boards, Bok Choy, Pac Fan, T-Pats. Hopefully we get some other... Moss is a new guy. Hopefully we have a nice rotation of guys that really know their stuff, but also bring slightly different... Oh, Gibbs. What up, Gibbs? Good to see you, buddy. Give slightly different vantage points on fantasy and, playing different kinds of leagues, different kind of scoring with different levels of competition. So just give you kind of a three-dimensional insight into fantasy football from a collection of guys who know their stuff. All right, so for our first video for tonight, this is mainly for the historical record at this point because obviously it's August 28th now. Oh, Boards. For the historical record again, Boards loves Jahmyr Gibbs, and one of our new guys goes by Gibbs, hence Boards is asking for his autograph in the live stream chat there. So it's already August 28th. A lot of people's drafts are already in the can, and for those of us that do still have drafts left, it's generally probably going to be like your office league or your hometown league or whatever. It's kind of we're into the less serious draft season at this point in the calendar, I would say. So running through ADP, the top rounds, the mid rounds in the upcoming video, that's mostly an exercise in getting, the content, basically getting everything we've been talking about for the last few weeks consolidated into a video on the record, so that, yes, I mean, between now and your last spat of drafts the rest of this weekend, yes, if you want to, you can refer to it and possibly get one or two useful things out of it for sure, but hopefully. But also, we can refer back to it in a couple weeks, a couple months, see where we were right, or where I was right, where Boards was right, Ben was right, where we were wrong, and hopefully try to kind of learn from that, calibrate for that going forward into 2024. All right, so enough of this, enough of this yakking, enough of this jaw jacking. I'm gonna pull up the ADP and just start slicing and dicing it. I'll try about every 12 picks, or every 12 guys, double back to the live stream chat and see what you guys are squawking about. All right. So what we're looking at here is the Yahoo Sleeper and RTSports. Barely even heard of them, but the consensus ADP in, I believe it's half point. No, it's let's go to half PPR. Half PPR scoring. The consensus ADP for all the guys, all the fantasy football guys. All right, so let's jump in. So Justin Jefferson, this is obviously 2023 is the year of there being no consensus number one pick. Really, I mean, truly for the first time, at least since I've been playing. Even last year, like, yeah, Jonathan Taylor wasn't like a screaming slam dunk number one like a lot of years. But, I mean, really, you can make a case for Jefferson. You can make a case for McCaffrey, Chase, Eckler. I've seen all these guys go one. Kelsey, I've even seen go number one a couple times. So this is really the most democratized 1.1 we've ever seen in my time playing fantasy football, for sure. Jefferson at 1-1. It's the most popular. You guys know who Justin Jefferson is if you're watching this video. I'm not going to waste a bunch of breath talking about it. McCaffrey, Eckler. So McCaffrey, Eckler has been a point of a fair amount of debate, certainly in the Fantasy Index Discord, for example, for the last few months, because we're trying to identify who the number one RB is, number one running back is, right? Like, we want to arrive at some sort of consensus there, and this year we just don't have that. It just doesn't exist. You can make a compelling case for McCaffrey because he's gotten to 100 catches before. He's gotten over 300 touches 3 out of the last 5 years. Basically, if he stays healthy, he has seen monster workloads, and he's a 49er. I mean, what's not to love? Eckler, he has given us he's just been a touchdown machine for 2 years. He has also gotten to 100 receptions before. I think they're so close. Like, could McCaffrey have like 20 to 40 even more carries than Eckler? Okay, sure. So what? You don't want either of these guys primarily because of their rushing value. Those 20 to 40 extra carries for McCaffrey, there's no reasonable expectation that's going to, the rushing touchdowns are going to scale with those rush attempts. So whatever, just McCaffrey, Eckler, tell yourself something. If you're in a situation where you want one of these guys and you're able to get one of these guys in drafts, tell yourself a story about one of them. There's no wrong answer. Make a decision. Like, the fantasy experts can't tell you what to do morning, noon, and night. Sometimes you got to button your own shirt. Chase at 3. Chase could be 1-1, honestly. Like, early on in the season in the prep season in the summer in 2023, I had Chase comfortably behind Jefferson and really maybe even behind Tyreek. But boards from the Discord and the RLD and RLD OG, he kind of helped me see the light on Chase around like early July, and really what it came down to was like the usage in 2023 for Chase when he was on the field was so unbelievably stratospheric, and it wasn't terribly efficient even. He was seeing such ungodly game logs, like a Justin Jefferson, that between the fact that he now appears to be pulling nearly even with Jefferson in terms of target share, but also target volume. Burrow's never going to throw it less than he has been, or than he did in like 2021. Now that he's got the targets and he has the explosive play element to his game that, yeah, Jefferson has, but he does not have Jamar Chase speed. Like, that's Justin Jefferson doesn't need to. Justin Jefferson's not lacking in any particular area in his game, so he doesn't need to have every tool that Chase or Tyreek Hill has. Anyway, Chase, if you get him at 3, if you get him at 2 in PPR, half PPR, love it. Nothing to not like there. Tyreek Hill, yeah, he could make a push for like 1,800 yards easy. Touchdowns are the thing. The difference between him and like Jamar Chase is Chase has elite quarterback play. Tyreek has pretty good quarterback play, and can the touchdown percentage correct from what it was last year, which was Tyreek Hill was not scoring enough touchdowns for the type of involvement in the offense he was seeing. Why was that? Is it because Tua's not that good? Maybe. So that's the knock on Tyreek, and that's why I think he comfortably deserves to be the number 3 receiver behind Jefferson and Chase. And even Jefferson has some touchdown concerns. Justin Jefferson had as many touchdowns last year as Christian Watson on like a fair amount more volume. So yeah, Tyreek Hill number 3, and again, obviously Tua's got major medical concerns. Kelsey in redraft. I mean, you can't make a compelling argument that he doesn't deserve to be a top 5 pick. He maybe deserves to be the number 1 pick because, well, those videos are gone. Basically, tight end is Travis Kelce and everybody else. And yes, 2023 for the tight end landscape as a whole could improve slightly. Over the last few years, it has gone up and then down and then up and then back way down last year on a pretty set schedule. So maybe tight ends as a whole rebound in 2023. I mean, it was a down year for like late end, back end QB1s, discount QB1s last year. We expect them to rebound, so why won't tight ends rebound? I'm not really betting on it. I think if you can get Kelsey and just completely solve the tight end position for the next 17 games in the first round, value-wise, the drop from him to like Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, whatever, is steeper than it is anywhere else. So Travis Kelce's probably my favorite first-round pick just because of what are you chasing in the first round? You want guaranteed elite production, and not only does he give you that, he gives you irreplaceable relative value to the rest of his position group. Okay, so Cup is where the first round starts to get interesting, and I mean you can see Yahoo, Sleeper, RTSports, all these where these guys are going are all clustered together pretty tight, and even Cup too is still going comfortably ahead of like Bijan and Saquon even in half PPR, and I think that's appropriate. I mean I know we're not super stoked for the Rams offense as a whole, but when it comes down when you really look at forest for the trees with Cooper Kupp, like yeah, they were using him relentlessly because he was all they had, and did that relentless usage to the point of maybe irresponsibility contribute to him getting hurt when he did and in the way that he did? Maybe. But what has changed? Like, can the Rams stop feeding Cooper Kupp relentlessly? Absolutely not. Like, it is the Cam Akers and Cooper Kupp show in LA. They don't have anybody else. I mean, I'm kind of open to like a Van Jefferson contract year mini explosion or mini, spike. But is that going to mean Cooper Kupp is not going to have 10 targets a game? No. He's a rock solid wide receiver 1. Could he get banged up? Yeah, I mean, he's coming off of, he got hurt late in 2022 and he's 30 years old. Anything could happen, but per game he's still elite. So and he he gives you a touchdown ceiling that is up there with Jamar Chase in terms of per game how many touchdowns he can give you. So I love Kupp. There's not much of a discount on him considering how 2022 went, but there's a small one. Bijan, look, a lot of guys love Bijan Robinson, and deservedly so. He is so exciting. I am not knocking the player. I am not even knocking the projected incoming usage here. I'm really not. But look at the other guys in the first round. Chase, Eckler, Hill. Behind Bijan, we've got Saquon, we've got Chubb, we've got Diggs, Lamb. There's all this certainty, relative certainty in the first round that even a guy who we're so confident he's going to be the guy and he's going to get 50 plus receptions, maybe 60 plus receptions, maybe even get 70 receptions. Who knows? The Falcons we don't know that the Falcons offense is going to be good. We just don't know that. Okay, they've got a quarterback that we have not really seen much of. We don't have high hopes for either, and the receivers, London and Pitts, are good, but are they so good that they're going to elevate Desmond Ridder and they're going to take pressure off of the run game and turn a 7-10 team into like a 10-7 team? I'm not so sure. It is a weak division. The weak division definitely helps. I'm not knocking the Bijan. I'm definitely not knocking taking Bijan in the first round. I'm really not, guys. And I'm actually going to take a break and see how mad you guys are getting in the live stream chat for me disparaging Bijan. I'm not disparaging Bijan at all. I'm just saying in the first round, even 1-8, 1-9 in that 110 area, relative to the other options on the board in redraft, I have a little bit of a volatility concern there, given the overall state of play for the Falcons. And he's a rookie. I mean, until we've seen him at speed against the pros in real games, there's always that chance that it's not going to be exactly what we bargained for when we got all gassed up on Bijan Robinson for the entire summer of 2023. I do love him, but just again, look at where you have to look at the price to get him, and look at what you're passing up for Bijan. Just that's all I'm saying. All right, so let's see. What are you guys jumping up and down about? Oh, Gibbs, you're skipping way ahead to Pitts. Yeah, I mean, I've said as much about Pitts. Oh, you guys are having a love fest in here. That's nice. So Pitts as the only other tight end that has a 1,100 yard ceiling. I think so. I don't see Mark Andrews getting there. I just don't. Like either they're going to revert to their running ways, or they are going to succeed in like a more college style, spread them out and sling it around offense. Either way, Mark Andrews has real target competition in a way he never has before. I just don't see Mark Andrews getting to 1,000 yards. I really don't. He could. I'm not saying he can't, but again, we'll get to him shortly. He's going like late second, early third round. If your late second round, early third round tight end comes up with even 950 yards, are you happy about that? I'm not happy about that, because at that point I could have gotten 750 yards several rounds later. I don't need to move up 7 rounds on my tight end to get that extra 200 yards. That doesn't make sense to me. So you got to believe Mark Andrews is going to get over 1,000, up toward like 1,100 yards for me by my valuation to justify that pick. I hate the Mark Andrews pick in redraft. Hate it, but we'll get there. All right, so yeah. Hopefully, I saw boards already starting to chime in. Like, I see what you're saying. Okay, I appreciate you not jumping all over me for that one, because again, the player's legit. The Falcons, I'm just not sure about, and I know they have a good line and all that, but I'm gonna let somebody else be the first man in the cave on that one. All right, after that is Saquon, and Saquon feels so rock solid and safe. Like, is he going to significantly expand on what he did in 2022? Probably not. Like, if the Giants' offense expands, is it going to expand in terms of getting Saquon volume? He already had all 3 downs to himself last year. He didn't score a ton of touchdowns. He didn't have. I think he did have double-digit touchdowns. What did Saquon have last year? I can pull that up pretty quick. Talk amongst yourselves. Professional production here. Oh, no, he did. He got to 10 touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns on the ground. Okay. So whatever. Like, if he does that again, and your late first, early second round pick, you did what you set out to do with your late first round pick. You got somebody rock solid. You got elite production. You got 1,300 to 1,500 yards. Love it. A ceiling beyond that, like Daniel Jones runs a lot, and he's gonna scam like 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns, and the offensive line is still very suspect. I don't think Saquon, through no fault of his own, has a lot of pardon me. I don't buy that Saquon has a lot of room to expand on his 2022, but I think the floor is real. And if you're just underwhelmed by, like, Stephon Diggs is kind of cranky, and if you're not fully sold on CeeDee Lamb, or you just want a running back, like a lot of leagues, my Sunday draft is 2 running back, 2 receiver. That changes the relative value of running backs versus receivers. I'm much more enamored with like a Saquon at that point. So he's a rock solid way to just walk away from the end of the first round, or if you're lucky, the first part of the second round, without having to roll the dice on, like, if you're feeling iffy about Kupp, or you're not sure about taking the tight end so early in Kelsey, Bijan. I like Saquon as like a T-bond. Next guy is Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb is my running back 3 in 2023, pretty much irrespective of scoring, because the ceiling is so unbelievable. Offensive line is elite. It may, when 2023 is all said and done, could absolutely wind up being the offensive line where we look back and say that was the best unit in football. Elite quarterback, we're pretty sure. The receivers are great. He has no meaningful competition, like they've been talking about Jerome Ford. Yeah, whatever. I'll believe that when I see it. They did just trade for Pierre Strong just to get some depth behind Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb has got comfortably 300 touches. He might push toward like 330, 340 touches this year. There's nothing else going on. The Browns are definitely going to be in at least neutral to positive game script running wise. Like, the stars are aligning for Nick Chubb, and he's in, what is he, his age 27 season. Like, it's all coming together for Nick Chubb. He should easily run for 1,500 yards. He should get his 12 to 14 touchdowns. Like, it's all happening for Nick Chubb. He is a back-end first-round smash guy to go get in any scoring. Standard, especially, if you're one of the 12 people still playing Standard with Quicksilver. But even in half, I think he's going to get to like 25, 35 receptions, which is all you need him to do in half. So, yeah, love Chubb. Stephon Diggs is kind of like the Saquon of receivers for me back here. Like, you know exactly what you're getting. He's like Saquon. He is so integral to that offense. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to agitate his way out of Buffalo. Buffalo needs him if they're going to go win a Super Bowl. Buffalo's Super Bowl window is open, but starting to slide. So, yeah, Stephon Diggs, again, you just want something rock steady and safe that you don't have to worry about, like, oh, what's it going to be? You know what you're going to get with Stephon Diggs at the tail end of the first. CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee Lamb, I like CeeDee Lamb. I definitely do, and I've taken him even in late first, early seconds a couple times now. But as we get deeper into the draft season, I'm looking back, I can't help but wonder, especially in redraft, why would you take CeeDee Lamb if Davante Adams is still on the board? What's the case for it? Because CeeDee Lamb has never caught nearly as many balls as Davante always does. Davante is a more prolific touchdown scorer. There's no way CeeDee Lamb is going to see more volume per game than Davante Adams. In redraft, I feel like we're too gassed up on CeeDee Lamb relative to other options, primarily Davante Adams. Davante Adams is still the man, guys. Let's be real. I'm not knocking Lamb. Kind of like Diggs, a little bit of a poor man's Diggs. You know exactly what you're getting. He is the guy in Dallas. Brandon Cooks is no threat at all. And Lamb could even be looking at a bump up from 2023, given the fact that the vaunted Dallas tight end that's been, central to the offense for years. We don't know that Jake Ferguson or Schoonmaker or Hendershot are going to ascend to that Schultz role in the offense overnight, day one. So maybe Lamb absorbs some of that. It totally makes sense. But again, kind of like with Bijan, like looking at the other options that are surrounding you there. It's not that I dislike Lamb. It's just look at what else is still on the board typically when you're taking CeeDee Lamb in redraft this year. All right, so that's 12. Let me pop over to live stream for a sec. Oh, that's not live stream. That's the Googles. Wow. I did not look at this beforehand, and Amon-Ra St. Brown getting some disrespect. We're higher on Amon-Ra in our group than consensus. 24 unfollowed me. Good. I don't need minors following me. That's a little bit sus. Following us. Sorry guys. Yeah, next we've got one of you long-timers, Boards or Ben or Bok Choy, if neither of you guys can make it. One of you guys needs to hop on for the Wednesday. I've already got it on the calendar. Wednesday Q&A on here. We have a backlog of questions that we need to get answered. If anybody wants to try and squeeze in another question for our Wednesday Q&A, go to the RLDL submissions channel on the Discord. Put your question in there. We've already got pretty much a full slate, but between the ones that have already been submitted, got some dry mouth. What's already been submitted and whatever comes in on the live stream that night, we already have a pretty full docket. But if you want to try and squeeze in a question, you can give it a shot. All right, so on to round 2. God dang, live streaming is hard. All right, so after Lamb is A.J. Brown, and I like A.J. It's kind of a similar. I'm in a similar place mentally with A.J. Brown to where I am with CeeDee Lamb, which is I like the player. I've always loved A.J. Brown, even when he had the misfortune of becoming a Philadelphia Eagle, Cowboys fan. There's what's not to like. I mean, he's there's no receiver in the NFL quite like A.J. Brown, obviously. And, he goes to Philadelphia, and they turn a guy who had never seen more than, I think 70 receptions in a season off the top of my head. They tack another, 20 receptions onto that. He goes for 88 catches in his first year, over 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. What's not to love there? It just feels, and I could totally be wrong about this, and I could even be a bit biased about this because it is the Eagles, and I don't like the Eagles. But it just feels like if you look at Jalen Hurts' passing volume in 2023, which was more than expected, but still nowhere near like even like a Josh Allen or like a mid-range quarterback. Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers. They all threw. Obviously, they have more pass attempts than Hurts even per game, but he had about 30 pass attempts per game, or I think it was like 30 and a half, 31, something like that. So lower in volume, and despite the fact that he did not produce a lot of passing volume, still like perfectly supported 2 elite fantasy receivers, and per game, a pretty good fantasy tight end on like iffy volume. Trevor Lawrence, who threw for way more yards, did not do that. Now, granted, Trevor Lawrence had more mouths to feed, but between the way that the Eagles just completely ran roughshod through their entire schedule, nobody got hurt. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith never left the field. Like it was such all the stars aligned for the Eagles in 2022. And if any team can do it 2 years in a row, it's these Eagles. But it's very difficult to have every single thing go right like it did for the Eagles offense specifically 2 years in a row. So it feels like this is already as good as this current passing game can get in fantasy. That's what it feels like to me. I could be wrong, but AJ exploded for like almost 90 catches. He's not a volume guy. He's an amazing, a rich man's Amari Cooper, but he is that genus of fantasy receiver. He's not Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's AJ Brown. So there's nothing wrong with getting 85, 90 catches and 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns out of your receiver one. But I'm having a hard time seeing a path for him to expand on that. And there is a scenario to me where he regresses a bit. Sorry, guys. I don't know what it is about the stream that gets my bronchitis going. All right, so Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is a strategy discussion at 14. Wow, he's several spots lower on RTSports. RTSports gets it. Mahomes at 14. I mean, you want the best quarterback off in fantasy, or the safest one, and you're willing to pay a premium to do it. We saw almost no quarterbacks, even the consensus QB1 going into 2022, Josh Allen. We really didn't see quarterbacks go this early last year because we generally were of the mindset that quarterbacks there were so many good ones that you could wait on quarterback and you could get Dak Prescott or Aaron Rodgers. Who else was back there? Matt Stafford. Like lots of Russell Wilson. Lots of back-end quarterback one options later in the draft and be fine. And what happened is a lot of those late quarterback ones crapped out on us big time in 2022, and that has scared quarterbacks up the board, kind of across the board, which means that, you got to be willing to plunk down a serious pick, probably a second rounder in 2023 in 12-team leagues, to get Patrick Mahomes, a third rounder to get Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, and that's just a big spin for me, especially if you're open to the theory, to the idea that the mid-range to back-end quarterback ones are going to rebound, have positive regression in 2023. Like, I certainly figure that they will, personally. I'm just what I'm saying is I'm not sure how much value there is in going second, third round to get one of these elite guys. I'm not knocking the strategy, but I am merely pointing out that we weren't doing that in 2022. So is there a real basis broadly for doing it in 2023 if you can go get Deshaun Watson or even like Trevor Lawrence as the QB7 several rounds later? What's the value add going this aggressively after quarterback? Your mileage will vary. I mean, you can do a strategy like this that I'm not 100% in love with and still come away with a great team as long as you beat up your other picks. Mahomes in the second, that's too spendy for me. But then you have kind of like with Kelsey, you've locked up your quarterback position for the year. That's always a nice bit of peace of mind. The drop from Mahomes to other guys, the drop from Kelsey to the tight end 2 is similar in my mind to like the drop from Mahomes to God, like Geno Smith. Like that's That's the difference. That's why I'm like, okay, yeah, go get Kelsey in the first. Whereas Mahomes, I'm like, how is he going to be that much better than a quarterback 2, quarterback 4, quarterback 5? I'm just not sure. Pollard as 15th overall. Wow, sleeper is sleeping on him. They're pushing him toward the back end of the second. I like Pollard. Everybody seems to like Pollard. Nothing really not to like. You know, he's been an efficiency monster. Now he gets the volume to go with it. His efficiency is probably going to struggle, but he still figures to see double-digit touchdowns and maybe catch 50 balls. So no reason not to like the upside on Pollard in what projects to be a very good run offense for the Cowboys. Henry, man, we're probably just sleeping on Derrick Henry again to our potential death, and if we have to run into him in the fantasy playoffs. Henry, middle of the second, or I guess still early second. Okay, that's not quite sleeping on him. But Henry did catch like 30 balls last year. He's still kind of a rock for like 1,300 and 10 to 12 rushing touchdowns, even with a bad offensive line. Like, we're knocking him for the bad offensive line. Derrick Henry is like the least sensitive running back, assuming that he's not, now over the hill because of the monster workloads he's had, which is a fair concern. But assuming that he's still the Derrick Henry we know, he doesn't care about his offensive line. I mean, he certainly doesn't care about it as much as like Tony Pollard, for example. Derrick Henry's such a rock-solid pick here. He's really probably as good of a value as the next guy, which is Davante Adams. Davante Adams should not be back here, guys. I know we're all concerned about, is Jimmy G going to be good enough? Doesn't matter. Davante Adams is still the man. He's Pro Football Focus rated him as the number 1 receiver in 2022 in like per route effectiveness. Like, he's still got the mojo, guys. And he's going to get he's going to be on like 170, 175 target pace again, maybe more. And, Jimmy doesn't have the arm talent that Derek Carr does. Maybe that's a good thing. Like, the Raiders were using Devontae downfield way more than the Packers ever did. And yeah, I mean, it still worked. He got like over 100 catches and 1,500 yards. That's great. But like 80 balls hit the turf. Like, Davante Adams did not even come down with 60% of his targets in 2022. Like, that's not the Davante Adams that we know. So it's also possible that Jimmy G improves Davante Adams' efficiency, like per target, guys. It's in the realm of possibility. And he's an elite touchdown scorer. Like, Davante Adams should not be going in the second round. That's just criminal, and you're going to regret it. Amon-Ra St. Brown. So Amon-Ra is going 18th overall. I'm surprised, actually, to see that he's going behind, like, Devontae and Pollard, because in a lot of our mock drafts, he's going first or second in the second round. We've even seen him go in the first round. I just don't know about that, guys. I know we all love us some Amon-Ra. As you guys know, I was kind of first in field in pounding the table for this guy. But at the end of the day, we are talking about a guy who's a shade under 6 foot, 200 pounds, runs like in the 4.6s, and has Jared Goff as his quarterback. Like, there is a real ceiling to what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do in fantasy, unless, like, kind of like for the Philadelphia receivers last year, all the stars align just so perfectly. What can Amon-Ra St. Brown do with like 120 catches, which I think is in play? Amon-Ra could catch 120 balls, and in full PPR, that's amazing. But 120 balls, can Amon-Ra even turn that into more than like 1,300 yards? I don't super believe that he can. The Lions do have sort of a fascination with using him in kind of a wildcat way that you probably count on him to tack on like 100 or so, 80 to 150 yards rushing too, season long. So that's kind of nice. But he is used in such a way that I think he's just gonna kind of like chronically be a little bit banged up / missing a game or two with an ankle or or this or jeez. Taking Amon-Ra, who to me has a very real yardage ceiling over guys like Davante Adams, even A.J. Brown. Well, AJ's in consensus here. AJ's going quite a bit higher, but a couple of the receivers coming up after Amon-Ra actually here in the second. I'm just not a super big fan of it. Like, I do love the floor. The lack of ceiling in your wide receiver one, it's not my favorite. Full PPR, okay, but half, like this group tends to play, I don't know. Josh Allen, sure. I mean, he's been the QB1, and QB2 the last 3 years. What's not to love? He probably should be. He's the QB2 now, so it's not like he's getting disrespected. But I haven't seen him be the first quarterback off the board in any mocks yet. He could absolutely be the QB1 again. So yeah, if you're open to spending a late second, early third on a quarterback, good way to spend it. Josh Jacobs. Jacob's situation has finally stabilized and solidified. If you're not worried about the unbelievable 390 plus touches that he got last year, then sure, wheels up on him in the late second. He could absolutely give you first round value. Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson should be going ahead of Amon-Ra. I absolutely do. Like, Amon-Ra's lovely, and we're all rooting for him, and he's a lot of fun. He cannot do the things. He cannot be the guy that Garrett Wilson can be. He just can't. And Garrett Wilson Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, and Tyreek Hill like ran away with target share per snap in 2022. So I mean, they overwhelmingly when they're on the field, they are the guys for their offenses. So Amon-Ra doesn't even have that edge on him. Will Jared Goff attempt more passes? You know, will there be more pass volume in Detroit than in New York? Probably. Yeah, and I mean that's the knock here for me, right? Is that Garrett's going to get a monstrous amount of what there is to go around in New York, just like Amon-Ra. There's going to be less to go around is the thing. So I would still put Garrett down for comfortably like 95 catches, 1,300 to 1,400 yards. And then the touchdowns, I mean, that's a crapshoot, especially with an aging quarterback, how often he's able to muscle the ball into the end zone when they're down inside the 20-25 yard line. We'll see. I don't see any way he comes away with less than 7 touchdowns, even with an aging quarterback. So I mean, we're probably going to wind up going into 2024 with Garrett freshly added to the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase tier of young god level receivers. After that is Jonathan Taylor. And as of right now, there's a lot of weirdness with Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, tomorrow night is the supposed trade deadline for him. He might be a Dolphin. He might be this. He might be that. Wherever he goes, he's very, very likely going to have access to all 3 downs, if not full-on ownership of all 3 downs. If he's in Indianapolis, I like him. If he's in Miami, I like him. Like, at this price, got to keep in mind, this guy was the consensus number 1 pick off the board in 2022 for a reason. Getting him back here is unbelievable. The Colts are going to be good at running the football, so if he stays in Indy, yes, he'll be probably not super happy about it, but he will be good there, be amazing in Miami, be unbelievable in Philadelphia. Like, there's if you really stop and look at it, there's very few bad scenarios here unless Jonathan Taylor just doesn't want to play football and there's motivation issues, which can't really predict that. Taylor back here is unbelievable value. You have to get this guy if he's on the board late in the second. Got to do it. Jalen Hurts, again, you want to take a quarterback? He's one of the top 3. Go get him. Jalen Waddle. I love Waddle back here. I mean, the knock on Waddle is that he only had like 117 targets last year, and he got to something around 1,300 yards on just a frankly unsustainable yard per catch number. He went over 17 yards a catch. We just don't see guys do that 2 years in a row anymore. So what's the knock? The knock is he needs to get more volume. He should. I mean, if Tua stays healthy for 15-plus games, there should be more volume to go around here. But he is the first receiver going off the board in drafts where he's not the number 1 receiver in his own offense. So there theoretically could be some peaks and valleys, some best ballishness to his game. I don't super see it, though. Kind of like with the Eagles, where they just hyper-consolidated their target share through their top 2 receivers. The Dolphins did a fair amount of that, too. They don't have a tight end that's meaningfully involved. They might have a running back that's involved in the passing game if, like, Devin A-Chain has some third-down chops. But short of that, like, if they're throwing it, it's going to be going to these 2 guys and then occasionally, like, Braxton Berrios or some weird guy like that. So, Waddle's a weird case because, like, as a wide receiver too, it's almost like overkill because that means you got like Justin Jefferson or Chase, and then you went and got Waddle. That's so much horsepower, so much firepower at wide receiver that you're going to be neglecting other positions. But as your wide receiver 1, that's like one of the first guys off the board where if he was your number 1 at that position, I'm like, I like it. I don't love it. You don't want your number 1 to not even be the number 1 on his own team. So Najee's fine. I mean, we in our group, we're not super smitten with Najee because his efficiency is gross. But he perked up a bit down the stretch in 2022. He's got Warren that's going to be probably taking some amount of work off of his plate in 2023. which should help his efficiency. So like the net detriment to his like counting stats overall is maybe going to be lessened by another little bump in efficiency. And the offensive line is much improved. They burn a first on Broderick Jones at left tackle from Georgia. So Najee here is another pick where it's like it's not super exciting, but it does feel rock solid in terms of getting a guy who he could catch 45 balls. It's not, you're not writing home about that, but 45 balls from a running back that also has a path to double-digit touchdowns is not bad. Olave back here. Olave should not be going this late. I don't see a real argument at all for Olave to be going even like any picks. Like Garrett Wilson and Olave should be going bang bang. Olave back here is unbelievable value. This guy could outperform Garrett Wilson in 2023. It would not surprise me at all. He's got a better offense, undeniably. For my money, he's got a better offense. His quarterback at this point might be better. He really might. Like, love Olave. If you can get him at the start of the third, that's manna from heaven. Love it. All right, let me check. Let me see what you guys are yakking about. What are we talking about in here? We're talking... Oh, you guys are talking JT. I am about to have a coronary. What the heck happened? Broncos for Jonathan Taylor. It kind of makes sense. I mean, their running backs outside of Javonte are what you call sus / maybe not good. Jaleel McLaughlin is kind of fun, but whatever. He's like a 5'7", mighty mite from Youngstown. Like he's probably a nobody. Samaje Perine was a nobody until he randomly caught some balls last year for the Bengals. Like he was. I mean, I thought certainly after the Redskins took him. Sorry, Commanders. After he got drafted there and like did basically nothing, I thought for sure, okay, well, Samaje Perine is just going to take the express lane out of the NFL. But he, has a nice little showing in Cincy last year. He is still a great big plotter with okay hands. Like, there's a market for those guys, but like that's what Leonard Fournette was, and Leonard Fournette don't got no job right now. So yeah, the Broncos definitely could use JT, but it doesn't seem like they're going to go for it. Jaleel is a dog, Broncos fan 267. You are right. All right, so let's get the rest of these knocked out here. Try not to spend too much time yakking. All right. Etienne, Travis Etienne at 27th overall. I like it just fine. Some people are higher on Etienne, some are lower. I see both arguments. Great player, but the Jags seem to have a directive to get some usage off of this guy back in the spring. When asked if the Jaguars were going to give Travis Etienne 74% of the running back touches like they did after James Robinson was shipped out of town again in 2023, Peterson said absolutely not, no way. So says that, and then they go and draft Tank Bigsby. I got some workload concerns here. I mean, I know we were pronouncing time of death on Kenneth Walker after the Charbonnet selection by the Seahawks. This is what feels like that to me, not so much the Walker Charbonnet dilemma in Seattle. Etienne might see some more passing game involvement, but they also brought in Ridley, so he might not. Etienne in the early third, I'm okay with it, but between like not having clear access to receiving game involvement and not having a clear path to like easy touchdowns inside the 10-yard line, I feel like it's just an okay pick. And their offensive line isn't very good. It was like the worst rated run blocking line in the league last year. And then they lose the right tackle, and the left tackle is out for all of September. I think the Jags as a whole could sputter early on. I'm not super into ETN here, but I like the player, and obviously we're all generally excited about the direction the Jaguars are going. So this one could go either way to me. Devontae Smith, kind of like with AJ Brown, but more so. This is the second fiddle on an offense that was low volume. It was despite the fact that it somehow managed to support two elite fantasy receivers. It was a low volume pass offense. Everything broke perfectly for Brown and Devontae last year. Devontae needed 95 grabs to not even get to 1,200 yards last year. I feel like people are kind of losing track of that because, yeah, he had some big games, but Devontae is a wide receiver too in fantasy, and you're just by dint of ADP, okay, he's the wide receiver 13. So if you got like whatever Jefferson or Chase or Hill as your wide receiver 1, then okay, Devontae is your wide receiver 2. most teams he's going to be like the number one receiver, at least by draft capital, and I'm just not in love with that. I don't see a path to any meaningful growth in all likelihood for Smith in 2023. Mark Andrews, hate the pick. Next, Ramondre Stevenson. Oh man, everything's just going the wrong way for this guy. Everything's pointing the wrong way. Never mind, they bring in Zeke. Ty Montgomery is still lurking. Like, yeah, Zeke is going to be slithering onto the field in short yardage situations, maybe in goal line, and he'll take some passing down reps as a true pass protector. But Ty Montgomery could see like passing game usage, in third and long situations or whatever, third and intermediate. If he's got goal line complications and his third downs are shot, like we can kiss 70 receptions or anything close to it. Bye bye for Ramondre in 2023, as far as I'm concerned. I just don't like it. We got to keep in mind this guy's a Patriot. The Patriots invented running back by committee, and they just brought in a running back. They brought in Zeke. Like, is Zeke toast? Yeah, but doesn't matter if they're determined to use the guy. So yeah, I'm out on Ramondre at this ADP. Spend your money elsewhere. T. Higgins, I love. T. Higgins is like the last true turnkey wide receiver one off the board for me. I love the value here. People are fading T, understandably so, because his overall counting numbers in 22 were kind of suspect. But got to keep in mind, he basically missed 4 games between the Buffalo-Cincinnati cancellation and leaving in like the first quarter, and a couple games on the first series because of like muscle tweaks, and the Bengals just said, to heck with it, we're pulling you. We're not going to risk, it becoming a chronic thing. So if you kick out those 3 games plus the Buffalo-Cincinnati cancellation, he really only played 13 games. If you extrapolate his okay 2022 numbers out to 17 games, he was on pace for like 95, 1,309. That was better than Devontae Smith, comfortably. So love T. Higgins. There's not much of a discount on him relative to Devontae, but also he was banged up. Jamar Chase was banged up. Like there's actually some room for growth here. Whereas for Devontae, I just don't see it. So nice, solid. If you went like Kelsey and a running back, or whatever, even Kelsey and a receiver in the first 2 rounds, Higgins is a nice price to solidify to either go get your kind of back end wide receiver 1 or get a screaming wide receiver 2. Love Higgins. Mixon, I just don't see it. Mixon is what he is, and the Bengals' resolve to run the ball is what it is. They got no love for the guy. They brought in Chase Brown. There's an outside chance that they still bring in somebody between now and week 1 or along the way. Kind of like with ETN, I see the argument for sure. It's an elite offense. He's not that expensive, and he certainly looks like he's going to be the guy at least for 2023. Okay, fair. If you can sell yourself on that, that's fine. I'm out. I'm out on Mixon at anywhere near his ADP. I wouldn't even take him in the 4th personally. I want upside. Jahmyr Gibbs. So Gibbs is one of the most divisive guys in our group, and probably in the broader fantasy landscape for sure, because the exact nature of how he's going to get whatever he's going to get in 2023 is unknown, on top of what it is he's going to even get. Love the talent, obviously. Love the passing game usage that he almost definitely is going to see. Love a lot of things about this guy. But they brought in David Montgomery. Obviously, David Montgomery figures to lead the team in rushing yards. And what that means is it's going to be like a Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, like an early version of that relationship. And the line where Montgomery gives way to Gibbs in terms of numbers and usage and vice versa is very important, and to take a running back several rounds later than the guy that should lead that team in rushing yards, that's a plunge. You're really taking a risk there. I do think Gibbs can and maybe even should justify this pick, but it is very risky. And I'm not going to get in. You could talk for 5 minutes straight about just, if he gets to these number of receptions, then oh my God, the value is +7, and if he only gets these many, value is -4. Whatever. Like, Gibbs is a fun pick, which this is about having fun. Gibbs is about as fun as it gets, and the ceiling is definitely there. Maybe he catches 85 balls, and this is all moot, and he should have gone in the first round. It's possible, but again, kind of like with Bijan, for the price and for the fact that his usage, whatever it's going to be, is exotic, and exotic is difficult to project. you gotta really be willing to kind of kiss the cross and take the plunge when you make this pick in the late third, early fourth round. If you get him in the early fourth, I mean, then it's hard to argue because you got to risk it. We like to say you got to risk it for the biscuit, and Gibbs is a good way to get Gibbs is for those who are in the business of biscuit acquisition, but not for the faint of heart. Lamar, I just don't really like Lamar. I've beat him up a lot. They want to throw the ball more. I don't know that Lamar can really hold up to that. He is slipping below league average in completion percentage over the last couple of years. And if they throw more, there's a possibility it's at the expense of his rushing, which is the whole draw there. If you're going to take Lamar, why wouldn't you wait several picks and take Justin Fields? I just don't see an argument for it at all. So I don't love that pick. But Lamar's per game ceiling is unimpeachable. Like when he's healthy and when he's humming, yeah, I mean, he can give you 35, 40 points multiple weeks in a row. But between his propensity for injury and just the price, what I think he can be versus the price, I just don't like the value prop. I'm gonna let somebody else make that pick. Certainly anywhere in the tail end of the third round. DK Metcalf. So obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba is the greatest thing since sliced bread at receiver for the Seahawks. Initially, I thought that. Well, initially, I still think, which is that the Seahawks offense is not going to grow by a JSN size target share. Somebody is going to suffer. Either it's Tyler Lockett, either it's Metcalf. Somebody's going to suffer for this guy coming aboard. Initially, I thought it was going to be Lockett. Now I'm leaning DK, and I think that really the issue, as much as JSN's arrival, is the fact that Russell Wilson was just a better fit with DK Metcalf than Geno Smith is. DK, his touchdowns collapsed in 2022. I don't think that was a fluke. I'm fading DK anywhere near his ADP. No, thank you. Calvin Ridley. All right, so I'm going to toggle over to the stream so I can watch the comments pour in here. Calvin Ridley at 36 overall. So that is the final pick in the third round of 12-team mock drafts. I wish I could just hand the microphone over to Boards right now so that he could proselytize for Ridley. So I see the argument on Ridley. I really do. I didn't for a good part of the summer. I'll admit it. But I do see the argument now. You go and you look at the tape for Calvin Ridley at his, the height of his powers in Atlanta. You see a guy that really looks like he fits in the present NFL. In terms of a guy that can go over the middle at speed, catch the ball, turn up field, and get yards after catch in chunks. That's what Calvin Ridley looks like, for sure. But he's been out of the game for a couple years now. He's 28, which is not ancient, but it's not. You're rapidly approaching not spring chicken status, and we've just never seen him in anything like the modern NFL that is just like a drop six, cover two shell base world. The last time he played football, the NFL was nothing like that. Like he left the league right before the cover two shell revolution, and it feels really risky to me. And actually, I guess I should kind of amend that with the fact that by consensus ADP on Sleeper, we've seen him going earlier than this, but by consensus, he's the wide receiver 16. So that's not so risky. I mean, what are you really asking for from, a mid-range wide receiver 2, except for 1,100, 1,200 yards and hopefully 7 to 9 touchdowns. That's reasonable. I think that's reasonable for Ridley. I've heard a lot of hopium, a lot of hype that Calvin Ridley is going to, obviously, I'm thinking a dream killer from the Discord server. I'm going to name drop a lot of characters on here, then you'll just have to kind of learn who the heck it is I'm talking about through repeat viewings. I've heard a lot of people take, Calvin Ridley could go for 40. He could go for 1,500 yards in this offense, no problem. Easy now. Like the Jaguars have other mouths to feed. Christian Kirk has contract. Evan Ingram now has contract. Zay Jones. Zay Jones could fall. He could disappear from the fantasy landscape in terms of relevance to make room for Calvin Ridley. That's plausible. But on the whole, yes, Ridley could get to 1,300 yards. He could. He could also come in under 1,100, and it wouldn't super surprise me. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but just trying to give like the most realistic snapshot of like the range of plausible outcomes for this guy. Like the Jaguars at the end of 2022 were already kind of finding their feet. And yes, they do seem very excited to have this guy in the fold and seem to be determined to use him, all that stuff. Great. There are other mouths to feed. Is Trevor Lawrence going to make the turn toward 4,500 yards passing in 2023? I don't think he will. I think he will give us another like 4,200, 4,300, and there will be ample competition. Like he's not going to drive Christian Kirk under 1,000 yards. I just don't see that happening. He could keep Zay from getting back towards 900 though, and that would not super surprise me. All right, so anyway, Ridley, I like him, but I would just say temper expectations. Like, is he going to come in here and just swashbuckle and kill all other target competitors in this offense? Which to get to hit the ceiling that some people seem to think that is there, he would have to do. I would say let's count it as like 1,200 yards. Take the W and get on down the road with your mid to late third round pick. Burrow's where I feel like maybe you start to recoup some value going early quarterback. This is the first quarterback off the board where I'm like, okay, I don't find that value proposition gross. Burrow's still got room for expansion. Chase and Higgins both missed a lot of time last year. Like the Eagles' top two receivers and the Dolphins' top two receivers both accounted for like over 60% of the receiving yards for both of those teams. Higgins and Chase didn't even account for 50%. And obviously those are guys that we think are every bit as good as the Eagles and Dolphins receivers. So there is room for Burrow to make that push toward like 4,700 yards and squeeze out somebody for a top 3 spot in the fantasy quarterback pecking order. Aaron Jones is just such a nice value here. I know there's some disagreement about like, well, is he going to be the Aaron Jones of old where he's giving you a shocking, conversion rate on touchdowns relative to the amount of touches he's seeing? Not 100% sure that Aaron Jones is going to return to double-digit touchdowns, but we are talking about a guy coming off of a career high in rushing yards and a career high in receptions. Like, if he'd had even a couple more rushing touchdowns, we'd be all over Aaron Jones. We're penalizing for only having two rushing touchdowns last year. And that was weird. It was just weird. Like, no one's that excited about A.J. Dillon. We know this guy's proven. We know he's good. He's not overworked. And we know the Packers are going to run the ball to keep pressure off of Jordan Love. Aaron Jones is it's just such a nice, safe play at running back. And for me, like, yeah, Bijan Robinson and Gibbs and these really hypey running backs are fun, but at the end of the day, there's definitely a lot of charm in running backs that you can trust, are not going to kill you like I suspect Joe Mixon is going to do to people, Ramondre could do to people. Aaron Jones, I do not believe is going to kill you, especially at that price. Like, he's going several picks after those guys. Love Aaron Jones. Debo, we're way too low on Debo, guys. Like, this is a guy who 2 years ago did just the most bizarro elite fantasy season for a wide receiver that we've seen in some time. He's still that guy. He's not, he's, what is he, 26, 27? He's got a contract. Like, the Niners offense figures to be elite. Like, we're way too pessimistic on Debo. George Kittle loves to get hurt and miss time all the time. CMC gets hurt and misses time all the time. Like, yes, Debo has been injury prone. Other guys in that offense are too. You win fantasy per game. You win it per game, and Debo per game is still a weapon in fantasy. He's a great wide receiver too. I will stand by that. Kenneth Walker a lot. Yeah, Charbonnet is a little bit of a concern, but we got to trust Pete Carroll to continue to be Pete Carroll here, guys. And Pete Carroll wants to have a guy at running back, period. He always has. Is he going to suddenly change now in the year 2023 because John Schneider, not him, John Schneider went and got him another running back early in the draft? I just don't buy it. It doesn't pass the sniff test for me. Kenneth Walker is awesome. He's awesome. Like, he runs in the sub 4.4s. He is a big play going somewhere to happen. He's built like a bowling ball. He's yoked up. Like, Kenneth Walker is very good. Yes, Zach Charbonnet appears to be very good too. Zach Charbonnet is going to wait his turn to be very good, and it is going to be the Kenneth Walker show in Seattle again, I believe. He should not be going several picks after Travis Etienne. He should be going before Travis Etienne, for sure. So, yeah, back here, I think Walker's a great value. obviously, I took him in the RLD. All right, Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper at 41 just feels kind of solid to me. Amari Cooper is what he is. We know what he is. He's kind of like the Mike Williams mold of, guys who will randomly blow up for like 7, 1, 20, and 2, but disappear into game script or just into coverage schemes a few times a year. And that there's no reason for that to change. It may happen more often now with Watson, who does he need a guy that he can just throw the ball up to and let him go get it, or does he have the arm talent and just the processing ability to pick apart zone defenses? I think he does. So there's a real risk that Amari Cooper falls off and falls back toward 1,000 yards receiving, right around there. That's kind of what I'm seeing for him, is like 1,000 to 1,050 yards, which obviously he's not that expensive, but even at this price, like you have to be kind of expecting more than 1,006. And I think we're looking at like 1,006, 10, 15, 7, something like that. And which is not going to kill you, but you're not going to be super stoked about it. So Cooper, I'm okay with it, but it feels kind of like low ceiling to me. Yeah. Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce has a big range of outcomes in 2023. He definitely does. The Texans were not a good offense last year. Breaking news. And the offensive line did get some help, for sure. They brought in Shaq Mason from the Buccaneers, which was a nice move. He's a fantastic run blocker. And they did just bring in George Fant. So they definitely got some reinforcements on the line. And getting a major piece of the 49ers offensive scheme and Bobby Slowick as the offensive coordinator coming over with D'Amico Ryans, that's nice. So yeah, and Dameon Pierce was like one of the most productive running backs after contact in the NFL last year. I mean, he had to be, because the offensive line and the offense as a whole was so bad. So that's nice. The fact that Dameon Pierce maybe can't stay on the field for third downs, like a lot of running backs, like that could be the killer for him. Certainly, it's why he's going back here. Is he doesn't offer a lot in even half PPR. You're taking kind of a hit there. So he needs to crank out yards, and he needs to score touchdowns, really, in 2023. Will he? Will he is the question. He should. I mean, the Texans don't have another running back that really is a concern inside of like the 10-yard line. Pierce is the hammer, between the 20s, and he should be the hammer inside the 22. CJ Stroud doesn't figure to be like a major vulture, and they don't have an obvious like red zone dominator receiver. Schultz is kind of mildly concerning, but Pierce has a path to 9, 10 total touchdowns. It's plausible, but he could also, honestly, if he ran back as 2022 directly, it wouldn't super surprise me either. Especially if Devin Singletary is more of a touch pest than we're hoping. And also, I mean, he plays such a physical brand of running back that maybe a slightly elevated injury risk week to week. I like him back here. I do. I took him in the RLD. I better like him, but he's not rock solid to me. But he's got a nice little ceiling on him if everything breaks right there, because the Houston offense is definitely an unknown, and we're cautiously optimistic about them overall. All right, so 43, Breece Hall. Man, Breece, what a fall. Breece went from going middle second to now all the way back middle of the fourth round. Man, if you can stomach the first year back from ACL narrative, like our protege 24 in the Discord server will not let anyone forget about for a second. Breece Hall's coming off of an ACL. Have you heard? If you can stomach that and the Dalvin Cook factor, I mean, this is a guy who was the most exciting running back, I think it would be fair to say, in 2022 in terms of the potential. And he was just blossoming into, something like his full array of fantasy powers in 2022, right when he tears the ACL in Denver. Major bummer factor there for sure. The Jets are going to run the ball a ton in 2023 with somebody. And is Breece Hall going to be involved? Clearly. But is Dalvin Cook now a major concern? Yes, he is. To me, and somebody said the same thing earlier in the Discord, I've said this, Breece Hall, especially this ADP, like, if you took Brees in like an early draft in the second round or third round, second round, third round, and then the Dalvin Cook news is a heartbreaker, okay, yeah, that sucks. But the case remained like, okay, as long as you get to the playoffs, Brees Hall figures to very possibly be like a league tilting, a playoff matchup tilting player, commodity in December, and back going in the fourth round now. Like, I don't see how you'd pass up Brees Hall. Like, the talent jump from some of the other names we're about to talk about, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert, whatever, he's a quarterback, but Keenan Allen, Miles Sanders is up in a few picks, Dameon Pierce a spot before him, Brees Hall, like, the name just jumps off the page, and rightfully so. And I mean, Dalvin Cook is older and has had his fair share of nicks and scrapes along the way too. Like, he's no sure thing to hold up for 17 games. Love Brees Hall back here. Yes, it's risky, but think about December. Think about what Brees Hall could be doing in week 14, 15, 16, 17 for your fantasy team for a fourth round pick. That's tempting. Keenan Allen had obviously a disastrous first half of 2022, a white hot second half of 2022, and then his offensive coordinator got canned indirectly for throwing the ball to him too much, because Keenan Allen is an intermediate area dominator, and the Chargers were not throwing the ball downfield enough, and that got the offensive coordinator fired. So his hot finish was lovely, but the offense that yielded it was deemed a failure, and they scrapped it and threw it away. So what does that mean? What it means is we're probably getting something like the Keenan Allen of 2021 and before, which is a guy who's going to give you like a 95 to 105 reception pace over hopefully 16 or 17 games, but at he's 30 or 31. Either way, he's getting old. So if he gives you 16 or 17 games, lovely. He'll probably give you like a pace of like 100, 110 catches, 1,100-ish to 1,150 yards, and some touchdowns. But the changing of the guard could start to happen here. The Chargers are certainly preparing for it with the Quentin Johnston pick. And also Josh Palmer's having a great camp. It seems like he's going to be, at least early on, as some sort of factor in this offense. I don't think Keenan Allen is going to start to necessarily get squeezed out, but I do not see him repeating the insane pace that he was on at the back half of 2022. This is probably the last year that we're going to see vintage Keenan Allen production. So if you're feeling sentimental and you want one last ride with the man, go ahead and grab him here. I don't see him expanding on like what we've seen him do in like 2021 and beyond. In that, rock solid wide receiver 2 range. And if you're in full PPR, he's lovely, because yes, he should give you like a 100 plus reception pace. But ceiling is, he's 31. There's no reason to hope for ceiling here, or the ceiling to go up. Herbert at 45. This is my favorite quarterback value so far. Burrow at QB5 went 8 picks before him, or is going about 8 picks before him. Herbert as QB6. There's every chance that Justin Herbert is going to be a top 5, maybe even top 4 quarterback in 2023. Like, before 2022, his first 2 years in the NFL were like, very statistically, he was not quite neck and neck with Mahomes, but he was close. And then, yes, last year his touchdown percentage collapsed to just an unbelievable. He threw like 25 touchdowns on 700 attempts. That's never going to happen again. That was a failing of the offense for sure. Not Herbert's fault. So there's a nice discount here that you're unlikely to see again in 2024 unless the price on all quarterbacks come down. And even then, so what? Like, Herbert can give you top 3, top 4 production for quite a bit cheaper. Great receivers. The offensive line is upgraded. They have a directive to go downfield more. They have the weapons to do it with bringing in Johnston. Mike Williams, when upright, is still effective. Like, there's no reason at all to not love Justin Herbert. We know he's elite. He has what he needs to go be elite. 4,800 yards is tentatively what I'm expecting here, given how much they let him throw the ball and the receivers he has at his disposal. Eckler, by the way, Austin Eckler. Like, there's just too much to love. 4,700, 4,800 yards and 33 to 36 touchdowns should happen here. Love him in the fourth, early fifth. I've even seen him going, like, tremendous value. TJ Hawkinson, I just don't like the pick. He's not. If you take out his 2 insane blow-up games, yes, one of them came in the fantasy championship. That's nice. If you can guarantee that's going to happen again, then that changes everything. But if you take out his 2 insane games, statistically he was David Njoku. 15 out of 17 times out last year. TJ Hawkinson was David Njoku. He had 60 grabs for 600 yards and 2 touchdowns, something like that. That's David Njoku. I don't want David Njoku in the 4th round. I like David Njoku where he's supposed to go back in the 9th or 10th round. Hawkinson, I don't see it. They bring in Addison. I hate this pick. I think it's terrible value. Justin Fields, if you miss on Burrow or Herbert, or just you want a rushing upside type of quarterback, I think Justin Fields is as good as it gets in 2023 for sure. I know there's a lot of skepticism about, can he be the guy? Can he be enough of a passer to convince the Bears to stay in bed with him beyond 2023? Yeah, there is a scenario where he just is not capable of being, capable of winning football games reliably with his arm, and the Bears revisit who their quarterback is going to be beyond this year. But this year, this guy should be fantasy gold. I mean, he just ran for almost 1,150 yards, and he's going to do it again. And they go in and get him DJ Moore to emulate the Philadelphia Eagles model to a T. Is DJ Moore A.J. Brown? Maybe not. Probably not. But DJ Moore is very good. He's more than capable of being, whatever wide receiver 1 Justin Fields needs him to be. If Justin Fields goes out and even throws for 3,300 yards, he will be a top 6 quarterback, or very close to it for all intents and purposes. And he will have the kind of absurd spike games that win you weeks. Will he do it every week? No. But he will definitely win you 3-4 games in 2023 as your quarterback. Do you want to win or not? Fields is like the cutoff for elite quarterbacks as far as I'm concerned. Below there, you're no longer talking about for sure elite fantasy producers per week in 2023. 48 overall, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders we're really kind of sleeping on. We're not super bullish about him, and that's fair. He didn't do much in Philadelphia before last year, where everybody did everything. Everybody did whatever they wanted in that offense last year, and he goes for 1,100 yards and 10 or 12 touchdowns, whatever. Had a nice year, but then he leaves and goes to the Panthers. The Panthers gave this guy a very serious deal. Yes, only really the first 2 years of it are guaranteed. Hey, a fully guaranteed 2 years at $6 million a pop in this day and age for running backs, that's not nothing. The Panthers are serious about Miles Sanders. The Panthers are serious about Miles Sanders as their running back. Potentially all 3 downs. Miles Sanders has been involved in the passing game pre-Jalen Hurts, and with the Eagles he caught 50 balls as a rookie. Miles Sanders could be out there for 3 downs kind of a lot, and he's going all the way back here. I don't love Miles Sanders, the talent, the player, but the Panthers appear to. They certainly gave him a contract commensurate with strong feelings about him. And I believe Deuce Staley, who came over from Detroit last year to the Panther staff this year, I believe Staley was in Philadelphia when they took Sanders, so there is a connection there. The Panthers seem to be fully committed to Miles Sanders as their guy, and I don't think their offense is going to be that bad. And certainly they're going to seek to establish the run behind what appears to be top 15, top 16 offensive line unit there in Carolina. He's a nice, solid pick. It doesn't jump off the page, but it's certainly feels nice and safe until Miles Sanders tweaks his hamstring and misses a month. After that, some more uncertainty. J.K. Dobbins per week should be fantastic, but there's a lot that could go wrong here. We think the Ravens are committed to Dobbins in something along the lines of a 3-down back, but the Ravens may be too determined to have some form of running back committee to turn back now. It's been a couple years since they had a guy, and I don't think they're going to let Gus Edwards totally languish in on the bench year long. Keaton Mitchell is a threat on third downs, as much as there is a third down, as much as there is third down production to be had for any Baltimore running back. He could be involved there. Justice Hill might make the team and randomly steal touches here or there. I love the talent. I mean, Dobbins now fully healthy should be a phenomenal talent, and the Ravens still boast like a top 3, top 4 offensive line. So there really is a lot of potential ceiling here, but between the real like lack of warm fuzzy feelings between Dobbins and the Ravens, and it seems like vice versa, and the Ravens seemingly lack the expiration of them having any determination to have like a guy, a volume bell cow type guy. There's a lot of room for Dobbins to underperform at this spot, and there's a lot of room for him to overperform, to outperform this ADP. He's risky, is what I'm getting at here. Kittle is fine. Like, this is still too. I've said it. I did a video on it before. I'll say it again. I'm big on the Kelsey or punt approach at tight end for sure. Like, messing with any tight end from tight end 2 to like tight end 6, you're just chasing a production advantage that is unlikely to materialize for you for whatever reason. If you're determined to do it anyway, Kittle is about as good as it gets for me. Yes, like the touchdown pace down the stretch with Purdy is unsustainable. That's not going to happen again. But, I mean, whatever. Purdy and Kittle seem to have some sort of chemistry and connection that is worth factoring into your calculus when you're considering going mid-range tight end here. He's a better value than Waller in a few picks and Andrews and Hawkinson for me, for sure. He could outperform all those guys. So I like Kittle there. Is he going to give you... He's not going to get anywhere near double-digit touchdowns again, but whatever. He could win you a couple weeks. DJ Moore at 51, I think, is just a screaming value. Like, yes, Fields has major questions about his ability as a quarterback and how much they're going to throw it, yada, yada, yada. DJ Moore is coming in with a target mandate. He's going to have alpha target share. And whatever. Like, yeah, he'll have some... Will he lay some goose eggs? Probably. But will he also go for 6 for 150 and 2 touchdowns a couple times? Yes, I think he will. DJ Moore he's one of my favorite picks, honestly, in the top 60. Definitely one of my top 10 favorite values that we've covered so far. Yes, there's a lot of... And honestly, I think this also factors into why he's going so late. There's a lot of skepticism, like, well, DJ Moore's burned me so many times. I'm not going through the list, but if you look at the quarterbacks that DJ Moore had in Carolina, you would forgive him his past transgressions against us in fantasy like that. I mean, his quarterbacks are a hilarious list of bums, guys. Like top to bottom. Like the best quarterback you ever had was Teddy Bridgewater, for crying out loud. And we're holding the pass against this guy. We should be giving him a hug. We should be giving this guy a hug for what he's been through in the NFL. It's going to work. It absolutely should work. DJ Moore should get 1,200 yards without breaking a sweat. He's great value back here. Terry McLaurin I like a lot. Yeah, now he's got the turf toe. That sucks. If you already drafted him, well, you didn't know that was going to happen. So that's a bummer. But Scary Terry, the Commanders look good. Sam Howell's got a lot of buzz. Eric Bieniemy comes to town. Yes, Jahan Dotson is the cool new toy this Christmas season for sure. Don't sleep on Scary Terry. He's just been waiting for a quarterback all this time, and now he looks like he might have one. He's not quite DJ Moore in terms of my affinity for the value, even before the turf toe injury. But I like Terry a lot here for sure. You guys know I hate this next one. Alexander Mattison. He stinks. He is going to be at risk of hemorrhaging touches to better running backs, whoever they might be. Basically wire to wire. I'm pretty confident. And the Vikes aren't that determined to run, but when they do run the ball, I would imagine they expect a level of efficiency that Madison has shown us he can't do it. He couldn't do it in a change of pace role. Now he's going to get more volume, and he's going to be what? Less crappy per touch? Like, I don't buy it. Madison is going to wind up committed by Halloween, and teams that took him are going to take the L on that pick. Trevor Lawrence at 54 is the QB8. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Like, yes, Calvin Ridley coming to town is a nice little boon for the guy, and there's a path to him having like a top 6 finish at quarterback, but I think it's pretty thin. In 2022, He had 10 games where he threw for one or zero touchdown passes. 10 times in 17 games he threw for either one or zero touchdowns. So how did he get to 30 touchdowns overall? He ran for 5 touchdowns. Now, will he do that again or anything like it? Maybe, but those 5 touchdowns really were the difference between him being like the QB 6-7 and more like the QB 9-10, because he only threw for 4,100 yards and 25 touchdowns. It's like sub Geno Smith level production. Is he a candidate to take a step forward? Yes, absolutely. But the Jags came in first place, so they're going to play the Chiefs. They're going to play the Bengals. They're going to play the Bills. The AFC South can't be worse than it was last year. Like, I like the Texans to rebound. I like the Colts to rebound. The Titans are always a tough out. So, will his overall numbers improve? Possibly to probably. But the Jaguars are a risk. They're also a risk to struggle. To hear me tell it, early on in 2022. I like Trevor Lawrence, the player, just fine. Just I don't feel great about the value here. I don't hate it. If you don't want to wait, because after Trevor Lawrence there is a long wait to the next quarterback off the board. If you don't want to wait that long because you feel like, okay, well, now I'm punting quarterback. Okay, fine. In the middle of the 5th round here, 54 overall, I don't hate it, but like it means you're foregoing players I like a lot better in like DJ Moore. A guy in a couple picks here, Cam Akers, I love a lot. Drake London, like you're foregoing guys who I think are just going to be more instrumental to playoff runs and fantasy championships in 2023. Hopkins in PPR, in full PPR, is you still can't sleep on him because he's going to, however many games he gives you, whether it's 17 or 14 or 9, he's going to give you a 100 catch pace per game. You can't put a price on that. In half PPR, though, his powers start to wane kind of quickly, kind of like an Amon-Ra. Tannehill's just not good anymore. He only briefly ever was good, and there's a real chance the Titans are staring at a quarterback change at some point in 2023. The line is terrible. Yeah, he figures to see something along the lines of like a 2022 Cooper Kupp volume scam, because the line's just going to be bad, and when they do throw, they don't figure to have a lot of time to throw a lot of the time, and they'll have to get the ball out quick. And Hopkins was going to dominate the target share the day he signed anyway. But good receiver, bad quarterback, bad passing offense. We've kind of seen that go from being something that you should pursue to something you should approach really with caution. This could, especially in half PPR, I'm just not sure that the ceiling is worth the moderate risk here with Hopkins. And yeah, I mean he's injury prone. He's up there in age. Looking at the guys that you're passing up for him, DJ Moore, Drake London, I prefer those options at this point. Cam Akers at 56, love him. He is the Rams' plan for salvation in 2023. They have to run the ball to be even respectable week to week. Like they have to protect Stafford. They have to protect the offensive line itself. If they are dropping Stafford back 45 times a game on purpose, it's exposing Joseph Noteboom, who's coming off of an Achilles injury, to more pass blocking reps. Just generally exposing an offensive line that is suspect, and opening Stafford up to more hits that the next every hit for the rest of his career could be his last. They got to run the ball. Cam Akers is the guy. I would be fine with Cam Akers as my RB1 in fantasy, in like a zero or hero-ish type build. I would be fine with it. I feel that good about him. 1,200 yards and 9-10 touchdowns seems like, as long as he stays healthy, you should be able to count on that. Darren Waller, I hate the value. His quarterback is just not good. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. And moreover, the Giants are fine with that. They don't want him to be better than he already was. The Giants want to win football games, is where I'm at with the Giants offense. They want to go out and win football games. They don't care how they do it. They certainly don't want to put Daniel Jones in a situation where he's throwing it 30 or 40 times. So Darren Waller is the wide receiver one in New York, is the common refrain there. Like, well, whatever happens, he's going to get the most most receiving yards of any receiving option that Jones has. I just don't think Jones can get him anywhere close to 1,000 yards. I don't even think 900 yards is really in the cards here. Darren Waller is going to goose egg on you a lot, like a lot of tight ends are. But you can get guys several rounds later who will give you similar production and a similar number of goose eggs for cheaper. I just don't like Waller. He's 30. He's very injury prone. And Daniel Jones is not going to throw for 3,500 yards in all likelihood. Like, it's just, I don't see what a lot of people are seeing here. Besides the fact that, yes, once upon a time, Darren Waller was awesome. And he was almost even with Travis Kelce in terms of ruling the fantasy landscape at tight end. The past is the past. We live where we live now, which is in an era where Darren Waller is not going to get to 1,000 yards. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. It's not going to happen. James Conner at 58 is very gross. The Cardinals are gross. I was already skeptical of Conner coming into August, and now the Cardinals are telling us very clearly the Cardinals are very skeptical of the Cardinals in 2023. The Cardinals are giving us every indication that they're going to tank. Running backs on teams that are trying to lose, it's not good. Conner could be traded. I mean, a lot of stuff could come into play here now. Conner is under contract into 2024, but there's every chance that the current regime, the new regime, views him as 100% expendable instead of the 90% expendable that we knew coming into the season. Yeah, I'm hard avoiding Conner anywhere around this ADP. There's too much that can go wrong here. Don't do it. Drake London at 59 is unbelievable. There's no reason he should be back here. He should be going several picks earlier. He is the top receiver. He is the only threat to Drake London having like over 30% of the target share in Atlanta is a full-blown Kyle Pitts renaissance. That's it. That's the only thing that can stop him from having that happen for him. And Desmond Ridder, yes, we don't know what we have in him, but there is no way he can't throw for 3,500 yards. I do not buy that. Like, even Russ and Derek Carr on bad teams where they didn't even get to play 17 games, even those guys got to 3,500 yards last year. Desmond Ridder can throw for 3,500 yards, maybe even push toward like 3,800, and that's more than enough to get Drake London well fed in 2023. He should not be going remotely this late. Insane value at the end of the fifth on Drake London. Javonte Williams, I don't care how good Javonte looks on a very suspect Denver offense after having his entire knee explode, with Samaje Perine lurking in some capacity in this offense, going in the end of the fifth is criminally insane. That is horrible. It is irresponsible for the fantasy sites to even have him ranked this high on ADP. They should have do not cross police tape all around his name on the little draft queue. Javonte is a great player in an unacceptable situation considering the price tag that you're having to pay to get him in redraft. This is insanity. Even if it works, even if Javonte somehow overcomes a fully macheted knee to have a good season in fantasy, you got a good result through a bad process. 100%. Taking Javonte anywhere around this price, it's just bad practice. I can't believe he's ranked this high. It's a great story. It's awesome that he's already somehow playing professional football again. That doesn't mean you have to take him here, or that you should even consider it. Dallas Goedert is like the first tight end after Kelce where I'm like, okay, I kind of see the value there. Goedert at 61 overall, TE6. Like, yeah, it's the A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith show there for sure. But Goedert has always been kind of criminally underrated as like a back end to mid-range tight end one. And I mean, A.J. Brown has been prone to nicks and bruises, dings and scrapes throughout his career. There's a real scenario where Goddard is called on for more in 2023 than he was in 2022. He also might not, but he's a rock solid, like 800 yards. It'd be nice if he scored some more touchdowns, but he's he's either doomed or he's due. Maybe Goddard is due to finally get 5 or 6 touchdowns. But if you're going to go Goddard at 61, I really think you are better off holding off or reaching a little bit and going with this guy instead. Kyle Pitts at 62 overall, tight end 7. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. Outside of Travis Kelce, I don't see another guy with a plausible case to get to 1,000 yards at tight end anywhere in the league other than this guy. Like, he is worth the risk. He is worth the reach. If you want to approach getting into Travis Kelce's airspace per game, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but he is the only other guy that even plausibly could do it is Kyle Pitts. 2022, Kyle Pitts, take it all that data, crumple it up, throw it in the trash. It's not relevant. Marcus Mariota, end of story. That's what happened to Kyle Pitts in 2022 is Marcus Mariota. I saw a Twitter video where they did a mashup of his 14 targets in 2022, Kyle Pitts's, that traveled more than 20 yards in the air. Literally, like, 2 of them he was even able to get a hand on. Like, he was criminally victimized by Marcus Mariota. 2022, throw it out. In 2021, as a rookie, Kyle Pitts got 1,000 yards with we now know, absolutely over the hill, done, ready for the mortuary, Matt Ryan, who then went to Indianapolis in 2022 and killed that entire team, killed that entire offense. So Pitts is a super freak among super freaks. He is a wide receiver playing tight end. He's worth the risk. Like, look at the other options. Look at what are you really talking about when you're taking Dallas Goedert or when you're taking George Kittle. You're saying, well, he'll probably give me 850 yards. Yeah, sure. Could Kyle Pitts bust completely and give you like 550 yards, 600, and hurt his knee and miss games again in 2023? Sure, that could happen. It's fantasy football. Lots of things could happen. Kyle Pitts is the one guy who could actually approach Travis Kelce production for even stretches, even games in 2023. The value is real there. Took us long enough to get to my guy, Christian Watson. Oh, before I delve into Christian Watson, I should check on you boys. Make sure you're not gouging each other's eyes out. Pitts and Broncos fan loves Pitts and Goddard this year. I like Goddard just fine. Like I just said, I like Goddard just fine. But if it's between him and Pitts, I don't know. Broncos, maybe you take a minute, take a beat, try to convince me why you consider Goddard over Pitts. Is it just floor? See what? Yes, Broncos, it's time. See what? But yeah, I don't see the argument for Goddard. Like, sure, he's a nice solid like 750, 800 yards. You can get. Why don't you wait 4 rounds and get whatever Evan Ingram, who's going to give you 750 anyway? Like, I just don't see the argument there. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about my boy. All right, so 63 overall. Sorry, he's our boy. He's not just mine anymore. I'm sharing him with the RLD and the world. 63 overall is Christian Watson. And on the one hand, this is probably where he should be, if you really think about it. Because this is a guy who we're not entirely sure is actually good at even catching footballs. So that's fair. That's a fair critique of a wide receiver. Is he actually good at catching footballs? Maybe. Or maybe he can be one day, soon, hopefully. So yeah, there's that. And, he goes from the greatest statistical quarterback, maybe of all time, to some nobody from Utah in Jordan Love. So that's a little bit concerning. And Romeo Doubs appears to be on the ascent, and they bring in Luke Musgrave, and they go get this Jalen Reed character from Michigan State. So they've got other options. So, okay, those are all potential detriments to Christian Watson in 2023. Okay, fine. Christian Watson is a singular entity, a singular talent, a singular specimen in the NFL in 2023, period. There is no other player remotely like him walking the planet Earth today. I have never seen a receiver like this before. The second I saw his tape in 2022, I was all in, as everybody in the RLD can confirm to their chagrin. I was singing Christian Watson's praises from the rafters, from the rooftops, from like spring of 2022 on. And then when he had his knee injury in like training camp in July last year, I was like, yes, that killed his ADP. I can get him for nothing. I got him in every league. It was awesome. Except then he, was completely fantasy irrelevant for half the season. But then, finally, Green Bay against Dallas, he goes nuts and goes and scores like 7 touchdowns in whatever it was, 4 weeks. Christian Watson is the least volume-dependent receiver that we have in all of fantasy football at this point. I think it would be fair to say. Gabe Davis is close, maybe a little bit like Mike Williams, but really, Christian Watson, could even with Jordan Love, like I don't even care. It's not even to me. To me, it's frankly better that it's Jordan Love now and not Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers is old and ball velocity concerns are going to just get more and more prominent until he ages out of the league. But also, like, he was kind of a curmudgeon about throwing the ball to Christian Watson because he run the wrong route and he has to drop a lot of balls. Okay, fine, yeah, that's not great. Christian Watson, if he were to even get 100 targets, and that's his per game pace from from the Dallas game last year on, his per game pace, if you projected it out over 17 games, he was on pace for like 110 targets. So let's even say, let's call it 105 targets. You're hoping he converts on 70 of those. If Christian Watson cuts 70 balls, he could absolutely turn that into 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like, that's all he needs. He is that kind of field distorting freak of nature. He is an alien from the fourth dimension set to play football, sent across dimensions to entertain us with his abilities. It's unbelievable. A guy with this type of speed, to have this type of short air and this height, not even just the speed, but the size that he is, the length that he has, to have this kind of short area, lateral elusiveness and explosiveness, and never mind the ability to just run by the entire defense over the top for the long ball too. Like, he can win every single way a receiver wins. And oh, by the way, he is definitely one of the top 5 red zone weapons in the NFL right now already, because he can just stomp the gas and run away from defensive backs. Like, defensive backs think that they're in Christian Watson's hip pocket, and then he's gone. He just teleports. Like, could Christian Watson underperform his ADP? Yes, absolutely. This is a guy who, like I said, he might not be able to catch. There's every chance that something goes wrong here. Fantasy football is about having fun, right, guys? Like, at the end of the day, it's not. Yes, you want to win, but if you can win and have it be in like a cool way with cool players, adds a little something, right? And that's Christian Watson. Like, Christian Watson is going to make you more excited about your fantasy team every single week, on top of the fact that he could wind up doing something Josh Gordon-esque in 2023. It is possible. It is absolutely possible. Will it happen? I have no idea. But he's one of the few guys where you can say it is possible with this guy because he's such a freak. Go get Christian Watson. I mean, the fifth. This says he's going in the 6th round. I mean, I've had to get him in like the 5th or 4th round almost every single time, because competing against you guys who know how I feel about Christian Watson, so you're going to make me reach early to get him. That's fine, because he's the likelihood that he performs exactly to an ADP of 63 overall is not that high. He's either going to significantly overproduce it, or he's going to burn you badly. Like, could he burn me taking him early in the 4th? Yes, absolutely. He could burn you at even a 6th round ADP, for sure. There's a lot that could go wrong. But, hey, biscuit acquisition. You got to risk it for the biscuit in this business, baby. All right, Tyler Lockett at 64. We always do this. We disrespect Tyler Lockett, and he makes us pay for it. And then every year, did it last year, at the end of the year, we're like, I'm not going to sleep on Tyler Lockett again. I'm going to remember that Tyler Lockett is the man. And we're putting more respect on his name in 2023. Last year, he was going like in the 90s, at least in the 80s, I remember for sure. So he's actually moved up several spots despite the arrival of JSN. That's smart. Tyler Lockett's going to give us another 1,100 yards. That's all he does. That's all he knows how to do. He's going to give us 1,100 and like 7 or 8 touchdowns. And anybody who got him around here is going to be laughing all the way to the bank. We made fun of Ben for taking Lockett early in the RLD. That's probably a fine to good pick, especially now with JSN possibly banged up early in 2023. Brandon Ayuk, kind of a similar argument to Lockett. Like, I mean, obviously he's not as much of a surefire bet as Lockett is, but his floor sure feels rock solid to me. Like, he should get 1,000 yards without much ballyhoo. And if Debo misses time, Kittle misses time, CMC misses time, like he's probably the most durable receiving option in that offense. Ayuk could make the star turn toward like 1,200 plus. Would not super surprise me. He's a good pick here. Jerry Jeudy, I mean, even before the injury, like, there was a lot of disagreement about Jerry Jeudy. At the end of the day, Jerry Jeudy is a very good player with a very suspect quarterback. It's very risky to bet on talent to overcome crappy quarterback play. And I just don't believe that we've seen nearly enough, really anything to make us comfortable in the belief that Russ is going to be back in 2023. Russ has a lot to prove, and I'd rather he prove it before I take a Jerry Jeudy onto my team than after. Maybe Jerry Jeudy is a good buy low candidate, honestly, especially if Russ stinks it up again in 2023, and in September, October, they're talking about, oh, should we make a quarterback change? Should we go look at Stidham? At that point, then yeah, I want to swoop in on Jerry Jeudy, maybe even Marvin Mims, because those guys would be available at wholesale pricing, and maybe get a bump in production post Russ. Sean Payton sure seems to like Jarrett Stidham an awful lot for a guy that was a free agent, nobody from the backup for the Raiders last year. So that's kind of where I'm at with Jerry Jeudy. I love the player, the talent is for real. Jerry Jeudy kind of gives me like some early Devontae Adams vibes. I'm coming to realize, and I went and looked at the numbers, and their parallels in their early career arcs statistically as well. But I'm ducking Russ. I just can't get there. Again, it's all relative. Am I going to take Jeudy over Ayuk, Christian Watson? I just can't justify it. I want to, Broncos. I do, but I just can't do it. Chris Godwin, I was kind of with you guys on Chris Godwin up until recently in thinking that, like, man, he's just such a rock-solid PPR volume hack. Again, similar argument to Jerry Jeudy. The player I know can play. Chris Godwin is an elite talent at wide receiver. I do believe that. But the offensive line is very suspect. Obviously Ryan Jensen just went down for the year, and probably it sounds like his career could be over, unfortunately. That's very unfortunate. But they lost Donovan Smith and Shaq Mason as well. So the whole left side of the line was gone even before Jensen went down. The offensive line could be very bad, guys. Could be very bad. And it still might be bad. Even if the offensive line is bad, it still might really be better than Baker Mayfield. Like, just can't underestimate in this day and age how detrimental bad quarterback play can be to even very good receivers. I don't like Godwin anymore. I was in on Godwin's reasonable ADP price until very recently, but the Tampa pass volume is going to pull back by 25%, I would say, conservatively. Like, Tom Brady led the league in pass attempts by a lot, which is how Chris Godwin got into the wide receiver 2 conversation. He was, frankly, putting up like wide receiver 1 type numbers for a good portion of last year. That's gone. That's done with. Like, Tom Brady is gone. Baker Mayfield is not fit to shine Tom Brady's cleats. And I mean, yeah, if Baker Mayfield stinks, maybe they bring in Trask. But until that happens, like, we have to take these guys, receivers that are downstream of the Tampa quarterback based on what we know right now. And right now, Baker Mayfield is a threat to start double-digit games. So Godwin at 67, it's acceptable, but I don't love it. Dalvin Cook at 68. It's tough to know. It's tough to know how to feel about Dalvin at 68 because we don't know. Are the Jets going to really take it easy with Breece's workload early on? And even if they do, and Dalvin is smashing in September and putting up running back 1 numbers, what is that going to portend for October, the rest of the year, and critically, the fantasy playoff push in December? Dalvin could kind of seduce us into thinking, oh man, we got a scam, top 12, top 15 running back for peanuts, and kind of lull us to sleep early on with big numbers, and then gradually kind of give way to the undeniably per play, probably more effective at this point, player in Breece Hall, and have his volume diminish to the point that he starts to become kind of a week-to-week liability, but his trade value is already gone because word's out that Breece is coming and Dalvin is slipping into more of a Robin role instead of a Batman. Basically what I'm saying is if you take Dalvin and he blows up early, I would try to sell high on him in almost any draft. Unless, of course, like Breece has some setback or gets banged up or whatever, then obviously that's a different story. But if Dalvin is like dominating 60, 70% of the workload early on, don't get lulled to sleep by that. Like, Breece Hall is the guy there. Dalvin Cook is not. Dalvin Cook is a contingency plan so that the Jets took out to make sure that they could run the ball effectively as much as they wanted with him Brees Hall, and if, the unthinkable were to happen to either of those guys, like Carter and Abanikanda, the Jets wanted to make sure they had elite running backs, or at least very good running backs, period. That's why Dalvin's there. Brees is going to take things over, we have to assume, as soon as he's able to. Alvin Kamara at 69. We're almost done, guys. Don't worry. Alvin Kamara at 69. I want to like it. I really do, because the potential PPR scam is so nice there. And it could work. Obviously Kamara only gets the 3-game suspension, so that's awesome news if you are a Kamara dynasty holder, or you drafted him in like a super early drafting league, criminally, psychotically early drafting redraft league, and got him for cheaper than this. So, the 3-game suspension is awesome. But things are just too weird in New Orleans now. Like, the Saints abruptly just stopped throwing the ball to Kamara at all down the stretch last year, the last like 5 or 6 games. Dennis Allen, the head coach, would not really comment on why that was at all, and he was asked by sports journalists multiple times, like, what are you doing? Why are you not throwing the ball to Alvin Kamara? He's like one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. Shouldn't you use him that way? Wouldn't talk about it. Alvin Kamara was asked about it. He was like, I don't know. I don't know why they stopped throwing the ball to me. He turned Kamara into like a traditional, like, between the tackles, 20-plus carry a game running back. Really weird. So that was weird. And then after the weirdness of that was the end of 2022 for Kamara, they go and they give Jamal Williams real money. They go and use a real draft pick on Kendre Miller. This is just too weird of a situation now. Yes, Kamara has the huge contract, but the Saints are maybe out on having Alvin Kamara be like having even the amount of volume that he had last year in their backfield. I'm not saying it can't work. I mean, we're talking about a late 6th round pick on Alvin Kamara. A couple years ago, you'd be laughing all the way to the championship with that kind of value. And I believe he is still that player, even with his career odometer is getting up there for sure. But it's just such a weird situation there in New Orleans now. Like, they really heavily invested at running back this offseason. And like, yeah, they didn't know that it was only going to be a 3-game suspension, but they knew it wasn't going to be season long in all likelihood. Like, was it really necessary for them to plunk those kind of resources into their backfield, or are they signaling to us that they do not want Alvin Kamara to be the be-all, end-all for them at running back anymore? I don't know. I'm going to let somebody else find out. Mike Williams at 70. Obviously, Mike Williams is like the poster child for best ball. There's an argument to be made that with Kellen Moore in town and the initiative to drive the ball downfield with Herbert's howitzer of an arm, that's good news for Williams. And I'm partial to that. Like, you want pieces of this pass game for sure, and Williams is at 70 overall. So chugging toward the 7th round is the price is definitely right. But he's just so prone to missing games. There's no reason to think that's going to change. He's so peaks and valleys. He'll randomly just completely disappear for like 2 catches and 20 yards on you. Yeah, I mean, he's Mike Williams. Love him or lump him. Rachaad White at 71. I was kind of like with Godwin. I was a lot more bullish on Rachaad White, even up to like a couple weeks ago. But the fantasy community and like the fantasy like sharp community especially is getting awfully cozy, awfully comfortable with anointing Rachaad White as like, a running back 2 scam in like the 6th, 7th round of drafts. And that still definitely could happen. Don't get me wrong. But got to keep in mind, like, this is a running back who in 2022 had some major efficiency question marks in terms of his, per play effectiveness. Even as a receiver, like, yeah, he caught 50 balls, but what did he do with those 50 catches? Not a lot. The Tampa offense was inefficient as a whole. Like, Fournette was terrible too. The offensive line was just not good at run blocking at all. That could absolutely be the explanation here. The offensive line is worse in 2023. Almost definitely worse in 2023. And Baker Mayfield is probably going to make it even harder for them. He does not command, does not control the pocket like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers has. Those are guys that elevated their offensive lines every year. Baker Mayfield is not those guys. So yes, Rachaad White could control all three downs for the Bucs for like the majority of the season, and the offense could outperform expectations, and this could wind up being a great value. Rachaad White could also be the guy, the efficiency, weak link that he showed, that his numbers suggested, his metrics suggested that he was last year. The offensive line could be worse, and it was already bad. The passing game could be dysfunctional, and Rachaad White could slip into a full-blown committee with Sean Tucker. They are equally possible to me at this point, both scenarios. So you take Rachaad White back here, okay, there's a lot of risk in that pick for me. There is. Could hit, could burn you bad. I would probably rather at this point go with this guy, James Cook. Now, James Cook, his access to touchdowns inside the 20 is very questionable. Damian Harris is a capable, north-south hammer that figures to get 5 or 6 short touchdowns. And then Josh Allen, they want him to run less, but he's not going to retire from that overnight for sure. So yeah, Cook is going to have a tough time getting it in the end zone. But James Cook could absolutely go for 1,200, 1,300 total yards and catch 50 balls, 45, 50 balls for this team. Back here, with the kind of ceiling that he could have if Damian Harris were to get injured, as he's been known to do, or just fall out of favor, thus opening even more of the offense up to Cook. This is the kind of James Cook versus Rachaad White. It's James Cook. It's not even a question. He's the better player on a better offense. It's James Cook. There's definitely also a scenario where James Cook again disappoints like he did. It was late in 2022, but there was briefly a moment where James Cook hype started to really get out of control. And then he had the fumble early on in the season opener, and he just kind of disappeared for the rest of the season, or most of it. So that late surge in hype on him in 2022, if you got him at the late peak in his ADP, he kind of disappointed you there. Could happen again. Now he's going in the sixth, early 7th round. Now there's a real possibility for him to hurt you, but he's got talent, doesn't have a lot in his way in terms of access to whatever touches the Buffalo backfield has to give. This is where you want to take a swing on an iffy running back. Not Rachaad White is where I'm at with it. Yes, Rachaad White has a case to volume, but it's not as ironclad as we've maybe sort of slid into believing that it is. All right. Well, that gets us through 6 rounds, and my voice obviously has been given out for some time, so I'm gonna cut it off here. Let me check the stream chat for you boys one more time. Oh, Broncos has seen James Cook going in the 5th. I believe it. And it's a reach, but it's not the wrong. That's the kind of guy that you should reach around on, like James Cook. That's the kind of guy you should reach one round on. It's James Cook, because if he hits, he could hit big. He could easily wind up outperforming even a 5th round ADP in that offense. After Stephon Diggs, they bring in Dalton Kincaid. After Stephon Diggs, there's not really anybody that obviously commands a chunk of that offense, a chunk of involvement. Why can't it be James Cook? Why not? It could just be his time. They used a 2nd round pick on him for a reason. He's got juice. So yeah, Cook in the 5th. I don't love it because you'd rather get him in the 6th round. James Cook. Sorry, Broncos. James Cook. Dalvin Cook. I'm okay with Dalvin Cook. I went after T-Pats in the RLD main league draft pretty hard for where he took Dalvin. But in hindsight, it's an okay pick, especially early on. Dalvin Cook could be a top 10, top 8 running back in September in 2023. Does not strain believability at all. But I would take Dalvin definitely, like I had said, with kind of a mindset that, okay, down the line, I'm going to try to find a way to get out on Dalvin while the getting's good. But yeah, James Cook season. Fantasy gods, let it be so, please, in the year of our fantasy lord, Calvin Ridley, 2023. All right, boys. Well, I see that Gibbs is out. Broncos, you need to go to bed, buddy. Love you, but you need to clock out too. And yes, it was. Thank you for chiming in. Maybe we can get you on here squawking alongside me one of these upcoming episodes. All right. Well, I'm gonna call it for tonight. I had said that I was gonna do another 6 rounds, but vocal cords just don't have it in me. But we'll get round 7 through 12 on the books this week too. We will see you next time, boys. Have a good night.